welcome everyone to Minds and Money 5 at 5. Our edition today from Hong Kong. So Mind based, we've got 3 great projects from around the world today. Argonaut Securities, who are really the only specialist sort of broker, corporate advisor in Asia, I'd say really, certainly in Hong Kong, are our chief sponsor today. We've got a thematic running throughout this 7 weeks in the build-up to our Minds and Money Global event, which is in the start of September, which is a roadshow around the world. So I'll just go through the cities that we've covered in the last few weeks. So you might be somewhat envious. I certainly was when I read it. So we went to London first, Sydney second, New York, Frankfurt, Hong Kong, Melbourne next week, and then Toronto. So for those who can't travel, which is all of us, I felt somewhat envious that we couldn't move around. So I think that's, without further ado, I'll introduce you to, as I say, our sponsor today, Argonaut Securities, and the person who'll be leading the session and be the host is Matt Keane. He's Director of Metals and Mining for Argonaut Securities. So Matt, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today, and thanks to the team of Minds and Money for hosting this webinar. As you said, a great panel today. So got 3 good companies, all three that I've followed, particularly this year, but some for many years. But 3 very good up-and-coming companies with good prospects. Maybe I'll just go through and just introduce the panel we have today. So first off, we have from Xanadu Mines Executive Director and CEO Andy Stewart. So Andy is a geologist by trade, as am I. He's been in the industry for over 15 years, mineral exploration. He's got a long history in Mongolia, dating back to his time with Ivanhoe Mines. With that group, he was involved in a number of the greenfield discoveries. Xanadu is a Mongolian-focused gold, copper, or copper-gold explorer. We've got several projects, quality projects in the country. The flagship Hamugtai hosts not just one, but a real camp of mineralised porphyry intrusions. Many of these are actually outcropping from surface. The project has real potential to be a world-class asset. And it's just up the road from Rio's giant Oyu project. I never pronounced that correctly. One aspect I really have liked about Xanadu over the years is this extraordinary strong success rate of target porphyry generation and then actually making discovery thereafter. Next on the panel, we've got from Sihayo Gold, Colin Moorhead. So Colin's got over 3 decades of exploration, mining and project experience, pretty much everything you can do in the mining industry, I think. A long history of work in Australasia and has worked in many of the region's premier deposits, obviously a couple of those are Cadia, Gosawong. His most recent role was with Medeka Copper Gold, still there on the board. He led this company to what I classify as one of the most successful project ramp-ups in recent history. The Tuju Bukit Oxide project, wasn't without its challenges during ramp-up, including I think it was a 1 in 100 year, maybe more, flooding event, but that didn't cause any hiccups, and the project was built on time and on budget. Sihayo's namesake project in Sumatra offers, both near-term gold production, but more significantly, or as significantly, real exploration upside. And also we have Peter Ledwidge. So Peter, he's a geologist also, so it's a real team of geos here with us today. He's got over 30 years experience. He's worked across a number of continents also, Australia, Canada, Africa. Most recently in West Africa. He was part of that Orbis team. So for those who don't know or remember Orbis made several discoveries in West Africa, primarily Burkina Faso, if I'm correct. Thanks, Peter. And ultimately that company was acquired by Semafo. The majority of this team from Orbis have come across to Mako, and they've maintained that momentum of gold discoveries. I think probably count about 5 discoveries in West Africa to be attributed to your team. Yep. Be another? Okay. Mako is currently drilling out its Napier, I'll pronounce it incorrectly, sorry Peter, project.
Yep, pretty good.
And look, and continues to report some spectacular intercepts from the Chugga prospect Before I hand over to Andy, I might just give my sort of overview of the market at the moment. So, firstly, Argonaut, we are mentioned our Hong Kong and West Australian based. We're a broker and corporate advisor. We've been around for about 19 years. Primarily, we operate in the resource and resource surface sector. We do other things like agriculture and biotech. And we're generally technically driven. So on our ranks, we've got a number of geologists, engineers, and a metallurgist. So just on the market, I think it's a great time to be in resources. It's certainly been a strong gold and base metal market so far this year. While gold has pulled back in this week, I mean, I think to put that in perspective, it's really only fallen back to prices we saw 2-3 weeks ago. And my view is that the gold thematic is going to remain strong, and just a couple of reasons to back that up. With zero real interest rates. There's always a strong inverse correlation between gold and interest rates. Fiscal stimulus, from most developed nations, escalating debt, both at a sovereign and a corporate level. And of course, we're heading into a US election, which is generally good for gold. And this one, I think, is going to be more volatile than ever, shaping up to be anyway. Personally, I can't see gold heading back below, say, $1,500 an ounce anytime soon. But also base metals. Look at copper. I think before COVID, we were looking at a real breakout year for copper. And this has been leading up for a couple of years with, decreasing grades globally, very low discovery rates. And demand by the Chinese was starting to pick up, particularly underlying PMI data. The main sectors such as electrical infrastructure were very strong end of last year into early this year. And I think the copper price, will continue through this year, even in this COVID environment. I say good time to be in resources. We've got here, three explorer developers. On the ASX alone, we've raised 3.3 billion since March, so effectively since the start of COVID. So what does this mean? When these companies have the cash available, the money goes in the ground. Money in the ground leads to discoveries. And I think you need to bear in mind that the highest rate of share price accretion for a resource stock is generally around the discovery phase. So I think what we're going to see through this next year is a real period of discovery. So, okay, that's my 2 cents worth. I'll hand over to you, Andy. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Matt. All right, just as an introduction to Xanadu, Xanadu is a copper and gold exploration company, and we're focused primarily in Mongolia and located in the South Gobi region. When we took on this project, we were very interested in copper gold porphyries. We're looking for large deposits, but we were also looking for areas that were close to infrastructure, and infrastructure is an important part of our portfolio that we've developed in the South Gobi. Our flagship Hamagtai project is located 100 kilometres north of the giant Oyu Tolgoi deposit, which Rio Tinto has developed and is producing at the moment. We're seeing the phase 2 of a large underground going into process there. And one thing that we look in the South Gobi, it's really the infrastructure. This is a place that has very large mines such as Oyu Tolgoi, but also large coke and coal deposits such as Tavan Tolgoi. So very well located Hamagtai. But we also have a project located in the eastern part of the South Gobi called Red Mountain. Again, this is a copper gold porphyry project, early stage, but we recently signed a joint venture with Jogmeg, and we've got the Japanese earning into that project. So the most established portfolio of copper and gold projects in the South Gobi is Xanadu. We're only 200 kilometres from the Chinese border, one of the largest consumers, and well placed in terms of infrastructure. We've got rail, power, water. And we all say this industry that once you have those infrastructure, it's a big chunk of your forward costs and then development process. So in position very good, and certainly in an emerging tier 1 assets in a premier mineral belt. So in the last 5 years, Xanadu has been progressing the Hamagtai project. Late last year, we were able to put together a 580 million tonne resource containing close to 2 million tonnes of contained copper and over 4 million ounces of gold. This is all within an open pit, confined resource. This is only a fraction of what is a large district. In fact, when we look at the Hamagtai district, only about half of it's drilled to date. So that resource is only down to 400 metres. It's a small fraction of it, as I said. What we're looking now is to advance the Hamagtai. We often look at that resource. We've put a scoping study together as de-risking the project. That's allowing us now to commence the second phase of deeper drilling, step out drilling undercover, and looking to advance that project. And if you look at this bubble map here, you see Hamagtai sits, but it's really advancing it up to Butterhijau, Tujabukit scale projects, Red Chris, and bring it into that target zone. And that's all about progressing the drilling. This is a project that has both scale and grade. So the next phase of exploration, the next phase of drilling is going to be quite exciting. It's a brownfield state of knowledge. To date, we've discovered a pound of copper for less than a cent in the ground. So the strike rate or the conversion of dollars in the ground to adding copper has been quite remarkable. When you think out globally, it's about 7 cents per pound. So doing it at a fraction of that. So what we're really looking at here, we can see Hamagtai project. It's in the far right-hand corner at the top there. And what we've looked at here is a series of other world-class projects that we think are comparable. Oyu Tolgoi in the bottom left-hand there, and Cadia in the far right. So if you look at the stage of this project, what we've done, that 600 million tonnes, the 200 million tonnes that contain copper, 4 million ounces of gold, is very much in the upper 300 metres of a district. We control the whole district. And when you think about copper and gold porphyries, once you can control this district, it's about finding more discoveries. If you look at Oyu Tolgoi consists of 3 major deposits, Heruga in the south going through to the open pit, and then the giant Hugo Dummett high-grade deposit. So these districts often fill out, and that's how you build world-class deposits. And in fact, if you look at Oyu Tolgoi, the 800 million tonnes, 0.4 copper, 0.2 gold, it's very comparable to what we've already got in the open pit. So the next phase is going to be exciting for Hamagtai. We see that as almost giving us the license now to go after where's our Hugo. And the next phase of drilling is already indicating results. We've had several drill holes now at Zara, which are showing over 1,000 metres of continuous mineralisation. So it's about piecing it together and building it into a tier 1 asset with a focus on grade, because we often look at these deposits as you get deeper. You obviously got to increase those grades, and closer to 0.6 or 0.8% copper equivalent is really what you want to see in these broad intervals. But it's a drilling game, and it's about infilling those spaces. And we're in a very, very good district. As I said, we've been adding copper at only a cent per pound, and the idea is to continue that to get it to well over that 1 billion tonnes, but with a focus on close to 100, 200 million tonnes of high grade, close to 1% copper equivalent. So that's really the Xanadu story in a nutshell. And I'll say too that the company recently completed a $12 million placement, which was done to existing shareholders, and a bunch of new domestic institutional investors have come on the register to Bumstead. So well positioned now to execute on this in this refined strategy.
Very good. Thanks very much, Andy. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to log those. If it's all right, Andy, I might fire off with just one myself. I actually got the pleasure of being on site a couple of years ago, and I've spoken with a number of technical people, some people who really know porphyry geology over the years on the project. I don't think I've actually come across someone who's been on site or had a good look at the company and really said anything negative at all about the prospectivity. So really highly rated by technical people who I believe in. For many years, Xanadu didn't quite have the funding required, but now you are. Eventually raised 12 million, well capitalised. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, but in your view, what's a realistic outcome in say 12 to 18 months in terms of resource expansion? How big can this be? What's maybe the targets and the aspirations?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Well, that $12 million we recently raised is going to go into somewhere between 18 to 20,000 metres of drilling. We're quite lucky in Mongolia. The Mongolian government acted very quickly and shut the borders in late January, early March. So there is no very limited and not any known communal transmission of COVID in Mongolia. So we're allowed to get on the ground, and we're working as business as normal in Mongolia. So with that money, we're recently working. We hope to start drilling next week. There's 2 prime focuses of that drilling. We know this project has high grades. It's about stepping out and expanding those high grades. We see it's very important to grow that high grade resource. It sits at about 50, 60 million tonnes at close to 0.8 copper equivalent at the moment, but growing that to 100, 200 million tonnes. We see that as an important goal in the midterm because it's all about grade. Then in the background, this is a large porphyry complex, and growing it up in that 0.6, you're looking at a billion and a half tons. That's really the aim of this 20,000 meters of drilling. And getting that drilling, it's about broad step outs, and getting that done as quickly as possible. And we're probably embarking, as I said, drilling next week, looking at 3 rigs running on double shifts, and the idea is to get a lot of that drilling done before it gets cold towards the end of the year in Mongolia.
Very good. Thanks very much.
We've got one question, Andy, just around how you balance that kind of exploration work, drilling out of the multiple assets of high grade and scale, with also putting together a resource update. What's your take on that?
Well, the idea is to step out, and it is a balancing act. I think that we see the resource work as a journey, not as a single event, but the idea is to get that 20,000 meters of drilling. Whether that gets us into a resource, we're not sure. It'll certainly get us to an inferred or better resource at that stage, but we'll make that decision when we have a look at it, I think, when that next resource comes. And it's about quality too. There's no point rushing out a resource if you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone. So it's about understanding where. So we've got a lot of unknowns. We put that resource out last year, 600 million tonnes, and on the back of a new discovery at Zara, and now we're drilling 1,000 metre holes of higher grade than it's in the current resource. So I think it's about the balancing act of where we are, but certainly that next 20,000 metres of drilling is going to be drilling that this project's been crying out for, and we think it's going to turn into a world-class discovery.
I'll jump in a sec, guys. We've got a question from Jacob for Andrew as well. Jacob, I'm just going to unmute you. There you go, far away.
Yeah, hi Andrew. My question was just on the Hamagtai resource. In terms of the end game, do you hope to build that up to a point where you'd interest a major?
Yeah, the idea is ultimately to take it through to a pre-feas stage. That's where we see the sweet spot. So our role as Xanadu and the junior explorers to take that project through to maximum value in terms of exploration, Ed. So that's as you get to that next resource pre-feasibility stage, and we see that at the top of the value curve for a junior explorer.
Okay, I'm going to fire away one more if that's okay, Andy. It's I know it's one that I'll probably ask for other people more than myself. I've got a view here, but particularly I think maybe it's just Australians, but Mongolia does have some trepidation with some investors, and a lot of that I think is to do with some of the challenges Rio's faced with their Oyu Tolgoi project. I suppose is it justified, and are there any advantages to actually operating in Mongolia?
Yeah, well, I probably said this to you before, Matt, but I see political risk as quite ubiquitous and not confined to countries we can't spell. But if you look at Oyu Tolgoi, a project that's gone from an exploration discovery, say in the early 2000s, 2005 and 6, and Rio took control in 2008, went into commercial production in 2013 and has been in production. If you see the open cut pit there, and maybe have a look at some of the images on our YouTube video of Xanadu, but that's a substantial open cut pit that got developed in record time. Now, some of the issues around Oyu Tolgoi are all about the delivery of the underground, and there's been delays there. I often had an old friend of mine tell me that if someone told you they didn't have problems with the block cave, they were lying to you. But when that block cave comes online, and it's looking to come in the next 2 years, it's going to be one of the world's biggest copper and gold mines. So, when I look at when we were involved in the exploration there, we saw projects that were Pebble, Resolution being discovered at the same time, and they haven't progressed at all, and all of those are located in North America. So, I would say that progressing a project in Mongolia, Oyu Tolgoi, it's happened pretty well. Yeah, sure, it's come from a base where there was very little projects, but to take a project through those steps it's not an easy task, and it's being done quite successfully. So, when we look at countries, it's about the proof of concept, whether you can hold tenure, you can tick that box, and you can do that, and you can build a mine. And seeing Oyu Tolgoi built, I'd say that how that was built so quickly is the proximity to the engineering workshops of China, and really the market there. And it's been quite a successful story, despite what you see in the media.
I was going to say, Matt, let's move on to the second project. Thanks, Andy. That was a great update on
Okay,
the project.
next up, got Colin Moorhead who's going to talk about Sihayo Gold. So over to you, Colin.
Thanks very much, Matt. Just move on to the next couple of slides. Okay, so from Mongolian copper, which for full disclosure, I'm involved in that one, to Indonesian gold. This is a map of Indo, the Sunda Banda Arc, which makes up that line of islands, which is the southern part of Indonesia, is basically where Australia is crashing into Asia, and it's the perfect environment for emplacement of porphyry, epithermal and related mineralisation. The purpose of this slide is to show you where Sihayo is up in North Sumatra, just south of the big Matabe mine. It also shows you in the black circles the Merdeka operations at Tujuh Bukit Wetar and emerging large gold development at Pani. And the black boxes are indications of companies that have made an awful lot amount of money by getting things right. And the way to get things right in Indonesia is to have solid tenure and forestry permits, to have really good capable people on the ground, and to have really solid Indonesian partners. And Merdeka's gone from a $500 million company when I got involved with it to an over $3 billion company today. Sihayo has got very similar shareholding as in many ways. It's the more agile, talented little sister of Merdeka, and I've been asked to push Sihayo along. Next slide, please. I like to think of a growth pipeline here with risk reducing as you get to the pointy end. So the company's just completed a feasibility study on our starter project. That's predicated on a 24 million tonne, 2 gram, 1.5 million ounce resource. It's a conventional open pit gold mine, very similar to things I've built and operated before. It's virtually fully permitted and ready to go. I've managed to get all shareholders aligned on a 3-tier exploration strategy. Near mine, looking at sediment-hosted gold opportunities that we can truck to that Sihayo starter project and improve that project even further. There's a thing called Huta-Bagot Julu, which is a Matabe analogue. It's a bulk tonnage epithermal gold and silver geochemical anomaly. Every geo that's ever walked across this thing has wanted to drill it, including me, twice before. And I'm very pleased to be able to get to drill it now. There has been some drilling there targeting individual veins, but this is a bulk tonnage target. If one thing's true in exploration is you have to test your exploration model. So there'll be a program of about 2,000 metres of 300 metre deep holes, fences across Huta-Bagot Julu very shortly. And then there's a whole portfolio of porphyry and epithermal targets on the lease, which hadn't had a lot of love recently. There's good geochemical and geophysical data sets, but haven't really progressed in the last few years. This next slide. So zooming in on the lease, it's a 7th generation contract of work that's 66,000 hectares. Now most contracts of work have been converted to IUPs, which is a common garden variety mining lease in Indonesia. This one is a CAW, but it's back to standard fiscal arrangements, prevailing tax law and royalty law, as opposed to a specific fiscal arrangement specific to that CAW. There's 2 blocks. The great pink belts there, the mineral belts, are the local expression of the Trans-Sumatran fault zone. All of our known mineral occurrences sit along those belts. In fact, all the large deposits in Sumatra are proximal to the Trans-Sumatra fault zone. For the geos in the room, that southeastern block, the southern block, is sort of more deeper, high temperature porphyry, high sulfidation epithermal style mineralisation. The north block, which has been the focus of all recent efforts, is more shallow, low temperature, low sulfidation epithermal and sediment hosted deposits. and our starter project is one of those. So the plan is to do I have one more slide? Just check. Nope, go back. The plan is to get some capital into the company, restructure it. We're going to do some early works on the project and do $3 to $5 million of exploration in the back half of this year to test that Hutabagot-Julu target and to start working on those near mine targets. So it's a robust little starter project. It's 80,000 ounces for 8 years. It's got upside with near mine exploration, and it's got that Hutabagot-Julu that could be transformative if it turns into what I think it is. In terms of, as Andy said, the Indos have been managing COVID reasonably well. Jakarta is what they call a red zone. This area is a green zone. To go from a red zone to a green zone, you need to quarantine. Both of Medeka's operations are currently operating unimpeded. In fact, they're a good, strong production quarter. And we've got plans in place to be able to manage the COVID situation and get drilling there soon. So that's the story in a nutshell. It's near mine production, near-term production with big upside.
Thanks very much, Colin. If there's any questions, feel free to type them in or flag your hand and ask along. I'll kick it off just with a quickie for you there, Colin. You're probably known as a big asset, big company guy by history. You know, having worked at Cadia, actually part of the discovery team at Cadia and Goswong. What are you seeing here that's not in the current resource or mine plan? Is that what's attracted you to this one?
Well, you know, when I went to Goswong in 2003, it was 250,000 ounces of ore reserve and 18-month mine life, and since then it's produced about 4 million ounces of gold. So it's elephant country for starters. You know, without breaking any confidences, I've looked at that project back in my former days. Tried to do a deal back then. I did want to deal with it in my Medeka days. So it's a career ambition to drill that Hutabagot-Julu target. I hope I haven't oversold it. It might turn into a fizzer, but it's certainly, I don't know of an anomaly better than that that's undrilled anywhere right now. So you got to know. The project is, I actually got quite a buzz out of building Tuji Bukit. It's a mine that I'm really proud of, and the team that built that's going to help me build this. So I think if you can, you know, I think they're at 20 million hours LTI free now and no environmental issues, and that's the way to do mining. I think we can do that and create a beachhead, but, you know, it buys you the cash flow to explore an elephant country, and that's the way you find elephants. There are actually tigers up there, but I'm not going to hunt them.
Good luck with that.
Colin, we got a question from a private investor who said, and this, sorry to age you, because Matt's already done a good job of that by introducing your illustrious career, but how's Indonesia changed? I mean, to caveat that, one of the main reasons people turn up to events and these kind of events is jurisdictional risk and understanding how it changes over a period of time, and talk about, you know, if they meet 20 companies in 10 or 15 in different countries, they learn a lot. So how's it changed in your experience?
Oh, listen, I think, you know, when you take a helicopter view, Indonesia was, you know, basically a undemocratic dictatorship not very long ago, and now it's a full-blown democracy, and they've done that without too much in the way of civil wars or anything. So they've come a long way. It's one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and along with that, you know, there's been a lot of effort on corruption and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, I think the big thing that came in was the change of the mining law in 2009. And I wouldn't say that was good or bad. What it did was it created uncertainty, and it's taken that decade to wash through.
Has it been consistent? Has it been a consistent kind of, I mean, I know a law should be consistent, but you know, how you implicate that law, how you achieve. Well,
I can say that Indonesia's never actually nationalised anything, right? All of the tenure and ownership issues have been, I would say, own goals. The way for a foreigner to own a lease in Indonesia pre-2009 was a contract of work. which is a direct contract between the foreign company and the Indonesian government. Many tried to get onto an IUP through a nominee agreement with an Indonesian owner, and that's where those things run into problem. Indonesia is very consistent. There's a very consistent and well understood permitting process. If you do the work and you do things sequentially and take your time and do it properly, you can get stuff up. And I think I showed on that first slide that if you have those strong Indonesian partners, if you have good, capable people, you can make a lot of money and be very successful in Indonesia. EMR Capital just sold Matabe to Jardines, 1.3 billion, and that mine's still doing 300,000 or 400,000 ounces per year. And Newmont did a really good job of moving their asset onto local operators, and Newcrest had just sold their mine. That creates real opportunity for anybody that can operate and manage the technical and the non-technical in Indonesia. You can do very well, and I think there's still huge prospectivity in Indonesia to be had.
Shall we move on to the next speaker? Okay. Okay. Next up, we've got Peter Ledwidge talking about Mako Gold. Mako's in Burkina Faso. I actually had the chance to head down that way early this year before COVID hit. I didn't get the site, but I got to the office. Over to you, Peter.
Hi, first of all, thanks Mines and Money and Argonaut for giving me the opportunity to speak. You'll see a map of Africa here. You know, why are we in West Africa? Well, there's a Birimian greenstone belt that reaches all the way from Senegal in the west to Niger in the east. And within that greenstone belt, there's 70 plus 1 million ounce gold deposits, and over 40 of them are greater than 3 million ounces. So it's elephant country, and most of those mines are open pittables. So that's why we're there. We have our flagship Napgate project, and we believe that it's got the potential to host several million ounces of gold. And as Matt pointed out, we've got a team that's made 3 discoveries when we were with Orbis Gold in Burkina Faso before. And the team is not just at the corporate end, it's also our guys on the ground. The chief geo, country geo, and country manager and so on. So we've all done it before, and with Mako already, we've made 2 discoveries. One in Burkina Faso, which we're in the final process of selling to Norgold. And the reason for that is so that we can focus on our flagship project in Côte d'Ivoire. So we're advancing the project to a maiden resource in very short order, and that's what we're working on. Can I have the next slide, please? So that's the project there, Northern Côte d'Ivoire, a large project, 30 kilometers north-south, 224 square kilometers. You can see 5 prospects on there. 4 of them we've drilled, and we've got some very good results on there. So the strategy for us as a small junior, there's these milestones you have to hit. So you can see the red outline of the Chaga prospect within there. Over half of our drilling has been in there so far. We've drilled about 20,000 meters, and we're in the middle of a 10,000 meter drilling program right now. So the object, get that maiden resource on Chaga, then grow it on Chaga, and then go to the other prospects where we've already had some good results. I can't show all of them in this presentation, and then add some ounces there. So that's why we, think that we have that potential for multi-million ounces. Those black lines you see are interpreted shears from the geophysics, and the yellow and the green is a soil and auger anomaly. So we've got a 30-kilometer main shear with some other shears coincident with soil and auger. So, really easy to do the exploration, although structurally we're figuring it out, and our understanding's growing. Can I have the next slide, please? So that's the Chaga prospect that was in the red box in the previous slide. So you can see already we've got 1.4 kilometers of strike length of mineralization. We're focusing on the 1 kilometer long area in that blue rectangle there. You can see we've got some very good intersects, nice widths, nice grades. our latest one, and we announced this week, 13 meters at just under 21 grams, 36 meters at 3, 28 at 5, and so on. The key thing to take away from this slide is you can see these nice high grade widths all along that 1 kilometer area. These areas that you see in pink are the IP anomalies. We did an IP survey on that. And that's really working for us to target mineralization. So we've gone through a lot of these IP anomalies through our drilling, and that's where we're getting these good results. So you can see all these IP in the pink, going north, going to south. So it's open in all areas. One thing that we've also done as well is did our preliminary metallurgical test work, simple bottle rolls, and both the oxide and the fresh rock came back over 94%. So that was a relief to us. It would have been a little bit hard to raise money if it hadn't. Next slide, please. So this is a section, you would have seen it, I forgot to point out in the previous slide, but that's okay. So this is one of the typical sections. On the previous slides, I outlined how we have continuity along strike. So now I want to demonstrate how we're getting continuity down dip. So the very western hole, you see an ARC 58DD, that was a diamond, an RC hole that we diamond tailed. And we got mineralization down to 185 vertical meters. So we know it's there, but to be honest, we're not doing any more deep drilling because we've got all those targets along strike. So why would we bother? But there again, you can see, down dip, we've got these nice intervals all the way down, including, some high grade in there, 7 meters at just under 12 grams, and all within a wider mineralized envelope. Another one, 28 meters at 4.86. So typical of these shear hosted mineralization that pinches and swells, but overall we expect that we'll probably end up something that averages about 2 grams in our main resource.
Thanks very much, Peter. Again, any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. Or put your flag on there. I'll fire away with just a quickie. I'm going to state the obvious here a little bit, Peter, but your team at August, you made the Natugu discovery, Burkina Faso, that was ultimately acquired, or the company was acquired by Semaphore. I think it was 180 thereabouts million Australian. And maybe when does Mako become a takeover target? And who are the predators? Who are the likely acquirers in the region?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of M&A going on right now, and to be honest, people are already circling. But for us, ideally, we'd like to be a takeover target, but not before we get at least 2 million ounces in the ground. So, the local suspects, we just sold the final stages of selling our new project in Argonaut, 1 million ounce a year producer. So they're obviously candidates. Endeavor, who recently bought out Semaphore, who had previously bought Orbis out because of our discoveries there. There's a lot of large companies. There's Sentiments in there, Barrick, obviously. So right now, we're letting them, keeping them informed, but it's a little bit early stage. But we think that, look forward to 18 months or something, that might be the right timing.
Yeah, no, interesting. There's been a lot of deals, you're right. So you've had Exor Resources just north of you, north of you, been acquired by Perseus, and obviously Cardinal's a competitive process at the moment. North Gold there again. So you're right, it's a really hot area, and I think where you are, my view here is that Côte d'Ivoire is probably where people are going to migrate to a bit more money, and technical people, I think, have a preference for working in the country. Obviously, a stable jurisdiction compared to some of the other West African nations at present.
Absolutely, and the infrastructure is pretty amazing. When we used to drive from Burkina to Côte d'Ivoire, we noticed a big change. As soon as you get to Côte d'Ivoire, you're on a nice bitumen road. doing highway speeds. Actually, on our project, we have a hydroelectric line that runs through the project. We have a bitumen road, and then we have a river on the east side. So everything you need to put a mine into production should we be successful. But it's a very easy place to work. The administration's, straightforward and yeah, I mean, Anne and I have been working that part of the world for 10 years now. And previously we were there in the mid-90s working for Canadian companies as well. So we've seen a lot of changes and all for the better.
I've got one further question for you. Obviously you're sort of looking at the plan view map there. It looks like you've got that sort of 300 meter spacing where you're getting those really nice high grade zones coming through. So where do you see the real mineralization upside, resource upside? Is it going to be working along strike, going up and down, but maybe looking for more of these repeats, or are you going to chase the grade down dip?
Well, it won't so much be down dip, but what we're finding, we're drilling now, and the more we drill, the more we learn. And it's just really recently that we've kind of seen that along these cross faults on this major, 30 kilometer shear, there's these cross faults along there, and it's at the intersection of those cross faults that we're getting, these nice high grade hits. So so far, most of our drilling's been from east to west because everything dips steeply to the west. From west to east because everything dips to the west. And now we're doing some of our drilling at a 45-degree angle to that to test new areas so that we would actually intersect both the north-south and the east-west faults because they represent potential for dilational zones, and we all know that in many deposits that's where you get those really high-grade shoots, and much like Musgrave's hitting right now.
Gotcha.
Matt, we've got one more question. There's been talk of the management team discovering a number of resources. Could you just elaborate on some of the other partners who are involved in this process?
The other partners involved in?
We have a management team who've been involved in discovering these assets, who are involved with Mako Gold.
Basically, the Mako team is the one that made all those discoveries. So it was, myself. I led the first discovery at Orbis, 600,000 ounces at 10 grams with lots of blue sky, and then Anne, my wife and colleague, always likes to outdo me. So then she led the team on the Natugu, which was 2 million ounces at 3.4 grams per ton. And we made a third discovery with Orbis, but we got taken over before we could advance it. And it's noteworthy to say that 3 discoveries, we advanced 2 from to resource, and we were, done the scoping study, and then we got taken over. And but as far as partners, the Napgate project is a earn-in JV that we have with Perseus Mining, and we've already earned in 51% to that, and we can earn up to 75% by taking it to feasibility. So win-win situation for everybody. And now, if we find 2, 3 or more million ounces.
Okay, I think that's been great. I think we'll open up any questions to the audience. So please, Nick, have we got anything that's been sent through in the chat room?
No, not at this stage, but if anyone has a question, please feel free. And did you want to comment on what Peter just said? Oh, there we go.
No, thank you. That would be dangerous. No, other than to say that, I think someone was asking about the discovery team, but I think it's worth noting, we have such a great in-country team that in these, in certain times with COVID, that, we don't have to be there to be hands-on at all. Matt, you met our chief geologist out on the ground when you were at camp, but perfectly capable of running the programs, without any direct supervision, on the ground. So, you know, that's just because they were with us at Orbis for the last 10 years and, you know, they know what we expect and, you know, they've come a long way in those last 10 years. So, you know, a lot of the success of Mako is also, you know, is very much due to the team on the ground.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comment, because Andy can say the same about his guys in Mongolia, and I could say the same about my guys in, you know, it's up to us to train and mentor and develop the skills. And I think the industry's done a pretty good job in some of these places of getting really good mining professionals on the ground.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty much. If there's no more questions, Nick, that's been a great session. Thank you to Argonaut Securities for being a sponsor, and also Sihayo, Mako, and Xanadu, and their 3 CEOs being involved. They will all be taking meetings. This is my small pitch you've got to suffer, so don't just sign off straight away. But they'll be taking meetings in September the 1st to the 3rd, our Minds and Money Global event, which we've got over 100 companies now and 440 investors. So please, if you want to chat to these guys in a more personal environment about the opportunities, please let us know. But thank you to Argonaut, thank you to Mako, thank you to the individuals, Peter, Colin, Andrew, and Matthew, and everyone else signing in today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.